Okay, year six. Within our English today, we're building on our knowledge of subordinating conjunctions to support ourselves in making points that persuade somebody else to allow us to do something or to do something themselves, and linking this also to our writing to our reading, where we've been looking at Private Peaceful by Michael Morpurgo. Now, there is a mnemonic which allows us to remember some subordinating conjunctions. Now, a mnemonic is a collection of letters which spell something out, which remind us of something. So a way I sometimes explain that is the points of a compass are north, east, south, west. And some people from the Midlands might remember that as never, ever support wolves, or my children who don't particularly like healthy breakfast cereal might say never eat shredded wheat. So there's different mnemonics for remember the same points, but the point you're trying to remember is north, east, south, west. Okay, so here we've got a mnemonic of a white bus, which enables us to remember a variety of different subordinating conjunctions. So an example of that is the first one of these, which is the letter A, and for the letter A we could have although, as, or after. You might know other ones from our writing yesterday, but if you think of although, as, or after as the ones for A, can you then go through white and bus and think of at least one subordinating conjunction for each one of those letters? If you pause this whilst you think of it and try and think of them yourselves, and we'll carry on through and let's see how well you did. So we've got where, whenever, when, and while, however, if, though, than, even if, even though, and then for be, before, because, we've got you for until and unless, and then we've got for s, so that, and since. So we've got a collection of different subordinating conjunctions which allow us to link that subordinating clause to the main clause of a sentence, and that's where we put our reason in to support our point that we're making of why we should or should not be allowed or made to do something. Okay, now we're going to unpick some sentences where there's examples of these, and then we're going to try and do a bit of writing ourselves. Okay, so here, you guys are all very eager. I know you love being at school, so you're terribly unhappy to see my smiling face, to not see my smiling face every day at the moment. So you are eager pupils, you see, and when you're eager pupils, although you are desperate to speed into the school every day, you know not to, so it's not really true for you because you're so careful and courteous. You would never speed in, but these children are obviously in either a different school or maybe they forgot themselves. But the eager pupils sped into school when the bell rang. Okay, so they ran up the stairs and they ran through the door. Okay, within that sentence, what's the subordinate clause and what's the conjunction within it? See if you can spot that. Just pause it if you need a second. If not, just think about it. And the answer is that when the bell rang was, so when was the conjunction, and the when the bell rang was the subordinating clause within that sentence. Okay, here we've got whales give birth to live young as they are mammals. So this again is a sentence which links to another area of our curriculum. So if we're looking at our organisms work within science, we know that there's different classification groups for different animals, and mammals are animals which give birth to their young. Okay, so whales are an example of that. Okay, and that's the reason, therefore, that's the subordinating clause. As they are mammals, they give birth. So the fact is, the point is that they give birth to live young, and the reason is that they are mammals, and therefore the subordinating conjunction is that as within the sentence there. Okay, now there's a team here who are not very good, the hopeless rugby team, and that because they're not very good, they lose. Okay, so the hopeless rugby team lost. Now, why did they lose? Well, they're hopeless. Why are they hopeless? Because they hadn't trained. So the subordinating clause there is they hadn't trained, and the conjunction is because. Okay. This PowerPoint's gone slightly astray here, but the question, the point we've looked at here, okay, is sometimes we can reorder these sentences. So if we go back to the one before that we'd already seen, the eager pupil sped into school when the bell rang, we could actually put that subordinating clause at the beginning of the sentence and have the sentence starting with when the bell rang, followed by the comma, and I'm sure Yusuf, you'll remember your comma, mate. The eager pupils sped into the school. So we've reordered the sentence from the beginning. We had the main clause followed by the subordinating clause, and now I've swapped it over where the subordinating conjunction becomes at the beginning of the sentence with that clause and then the main clause following it. Okay, so when the bell rang, the eager pupils sped into school. Okay, now here we look, as they are mammals, and we can change this one round. So as they are mammals, whales give birth to live young. Okay, because they haven't trained, the hopeless rugby team lost the game. Okay, the hopeless rugby team lost the game because they hadn't trained. Okay. Now, your job now is to have a little bit writing a couple of sentences. We are doing a more substantive piece of writing after that, but initially I just want you to write a couple of sentences. So thinking of all those subordinating conjunctions we looked at, however, if, though, than, even if, because, although, therefore. I am sending you a letter. I am your biggest fan. So where that line is, can you improve this sentence by including a subordinating conjunction? Okay. So I'm thinking, you have a go. I am sending you a letter. I am your biggest fan. Could I put although in? Could I say, I am sending you a letter, although I am your biggest fan? I don't think so, because if I was your biggest fan, I probably would send you a letter. And although means the opposite, means it's unlikely that I would do something like that. Because I'm your biggest fan? Possibly, yeah. See if you've got a different example that you think still rings true, that still works. Something, I eat lunch, I am going to an important meeting. Now, because I eat lunch, I'm going to an important meeting. Well, it might be. If I go to assembly when we're back to normal at school and I eat lunch in assembly, I'm probably going to an important meeting. My meeting with Mr. Day will be to tell me to stop eating my lunch in assembly. But normally the two wouldn't ring true. Because I eat lunch wouldn't necessarily go with I am going to an important meeting. So I'm thinking now, before I eat lunch, I'm going to an important meeting, possibly. After I eat lunch, I'm going to important meetings. So think of different ones that could have worked. Now, the first task that's a bit more substantive, this isn't a writing task, it's a bit of a reading task and then a identification of elements of it. I'm going to read this section together and then I want you to identify the subordinating conjunctions that they've been used and look at where they've been used within the sentences. As you walked closer, Cleo could see the crocodiliacy in the cave entrance. The beast was hurriedly eating the remains of its last unlucky victim because it was ravenous. Cleo examined its bright red eyes, huge smoking nostrils and razor-sharp teeth while the beast was occupied. Although Cleo was standing quite a distance away, the terrible stench of the gruesome beast was still making him feel nauseous. Cleo took a deep breath before he tiptoed bravely forward. It was time for battle. Just reread it yourself, pause the video, and decide where are those subordinating conjunctions and where have they been used within the sentences. Okay, as you've looked through, I'm sure lots of you have identified that we've got them on 10 talks now. At the beginning of that first sentence was as he walked closer. Then at the end of the second sentence was because it was ravenous. The third sentence concludes with while the beast was occupied. The fourth sentence opens with although, and the fifth sentence concludes with before he tiptoed forward. That final sentence is that simple sentence where it's just a singular clause. It was time for battle. Okay, so sometimes we don't have these conjunctions within sentences, but you can see there we've used them. Okay, hopefully you picked those apart. Hopefully you picked as, because, although, while, and before. Hopefully you're also thinking about therefore when you're thinking about writing. So that, hopefully you're thinking about that. Because now we're going to move on to our main task today. And this is where you're going to try and be, you're going to be Tommy. Now, Tommy has arrived at school for the first day, supported by Charlie as he gets there. But we know from reading Private Peaceful earlier, he's not very happy. He doesn't want to be there. We know there's issues within school. We've identified within our reading why he might not want to be at school. And what I'd like you to think about is using those white bus conjunctions that we'll just see coming up on the screen now. Sorry, they seem to have not come up, but you get the white bus ones if you look back at the slides from earlier. I'd like you to write a letter to his mum from Tommy, persuading his mum, not to make him go to school. Why should he not go to school? An example of a first sentence could be, although I need to learn, I could do this better at home. So could you think of using conjunctions at the beginning, in the middle, and in the middle of the sentences? So try and use some of those conjunctions that we've looked at today, like however, like even if, like even though, like as, like although, like before, like until, like unless, like so that, like therefore from yesterday, like because, which is a common one that we can use. Try and use a variety of those conjunctions within a letter with 2 or 3 paragraphs, writing to Tommy's mum, from Tommy, trying to persuade his mum not to send him to school. Have a go at that. I'd love to see your letter. So if you get one done, send a scan of it, a photo of it into school. I can't wait to see it. Well done, guys. Thank you for joining in again today. Bye-bye.